be here.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for it. I love the book. I've got to tell you, it's fantastic. I've read quite a few books just recently, and then wow, this really pulled me in so quickly. It's so good.
Oh,
I
I'm
must
glad
admit,
to
like
hear
the
it.
first page, I was a bit hesitant because it's dark stuff. It's pretty dark, especially the kind of the first sentence. But no, I got
Yeah.
past that, and it really does pick up, and it really pulled me in, and I love the way that it's written as well. It's like
Oh, I
some of the
appreciate
prose can
it.
be kind of um,
Sure.
overwritten, and
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to get into. But this one's it's just I don't know. It's just the kind of prose and literature that I like to read. So yeah, I love it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. I really appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a pretty nasty.
Go
It's
again.
a very mean-spirited novel, and it's pretty nasty. But I think when it's hit, it's hit. When it's landed with people, it's landed in a real way, which
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some great quotes on when I saw you on the book. You've got Paul Tremblay, who I spoke to
Yeah,
the other
that's
day. He's
right.
fantastic, and to get a quote from him is like. And I
Oh,
also
I know.
saw,
I mean, yeah,
I
I've
think
been
Clay
very
was it Clay
generous.
McLeod Chapman as well. I saw he'd read it as well. I think he read one of the very first versions. No,
That's right. And as a matter of fact, the book technically comes out on Tuesday. I don't know of recording this, and but Clay is leading my Q&A with the book launch. As a
oh
matter of
right,
fact, so I'm really ha generous. He's been very
fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I've
generous,
only
and
seen him on Instagram, but he looks like a really nice guy. Yeah, I've never had a chance to speak to him, but yeah,
me not in person, me neither. I never met Paul. I never met Clay. I never met these guys, but they've been really good about the book. So
yeah.
I'm very touched, obviously.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I'm quite curious. Where are you from originally? Because I know because are you kind of is it similar to what's his name Sam in the book? No, Sammy.
I'm from Florida.
Right,
Yes, I'm from Florida. I live in New York now. My folks are from New York, but
right.
via Puerto Rico and El Salvador and the
I was
like.
going to say this. So yeah, because I know I live in
That's
Spain, I've been living in Spain for the last almost 30 years now. Yeah,
oh, beautiful. Yeah,
yeah. Because I
you
was,
run your whole thing from Spain, huh?
yeah, I do my best. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
good.
surprisingly quite easy actually. Yeah, I mean, with screeners and things like that for films, and then the books are easy to get hold of. So yeah, nice. But
Oh, that's amazing.
it mainly all started from kind of the COVID pandemic and those kind of things. So it was
Hmm.
just flourished from there. So yeah, I can't complain. Yeah.
No, that sounds about right. Yeah, I've been up in New York. I just recently moved outside of the city. I live a little upstate now, but I've lived in Brooklyn for like about 8, 9 years.
Right.
And I was like, time to get out. It was just so expensive. And I was like, I gotta get out of here and settle down with my lady.
Brilliant. So, obviously you said about settling down with your lady. This book kind of
There
deals
is
with that
none.
in a way.
Yeah.
I don't want to give anything away. It's difficult not to give away too much here. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
just going to mention friends,
Sure.
girlfriends, those kind of things, not get into too much detail because I don't, it would completely ruin the plot. But obviously,
Yeah.
it, it, it revolves basically around the protagonist is basically this guy who, whenever I was reading that he's kind of these addictions that he feels to go and dig things up online or even
Mhm.
create things online that are kind of pretty macabre. It kind of reminded me almost like someone who needs to smoke some drugs or needs to maybe even self-harm themselves, things like that. It kind of reminded me of that kind of sensation that when they're in a kind of they're feeling they're struggling with themselves, they feel that those are the kind of things that will help pull them out of it. Was that kind of the initial idea, or did that come about after you were kind of
You
diving down these
know,
deep rabbit holes in on the dark web?
it's actually really funny. Well, hold on. There's like construction happening beneath my floor. If you can hear
All right.
that, I'll move.
No,
But if you
I can't
can't
hear a
hear
thing.
it,
I've not got my
okay.
headphones on, but I can't hear it. I've got the
All
speaker
right.
on. I can't hear it, so don't worry about it. It's all
Okay,
fine. It's
cool.
okay.
It's actually funny. It's really funny you mentioned that because it wasn't until the book was done and I was like talking to other authors about it, and it was already coming out. And I was talking to Sophie White, who is an Irish author, and my publisher, handles her book as well. And I was like, she's like, this book is about addiction. She's like, this is about addiction. This is about like, I mean, this main character here drinks like a fish. He's doing drugs. Like he's like engaging and indulging in this stuff like an addict and stuff. And
Yeah.
and that didn't even occur to me until I mean,
Oh, really?
I
Yeah.
knew that it was like addicted in the sense that like, you are addicted to media and addicted to that stuff. But I never actually, because I myself have never identified as like a substance user, so to speak. So I was like, oh, did I accidentally write like a novel about like being an alcoholic?
Yeah, yeah, but I got really big addiction vibes, especially. I mean, I can't remember. I think it was when there was with the family. I think is when he goes to see his family with
Yes.
Rebecca. I think it was,
Yeah.
and he's like, I need to get out of here. I need to see some videos. I need to do this. And it was just like someone who's
Jonesing.
trying to
Yeah.
get off. Yeah, trying to get
Yeah,
off the
yeah,
drugs.
that's I thought that I when when someone tells you that about your own work, it really makes you look inward. And I was like, oh shoot, I should probably reevaluate my relationship
Uh-huh.
with booze.
So that wasn't the genesis at all for the story then. Was it more
Well, I
so?
definitely knew addiction. I definitely knew addiction in the sense that, like, it's really funny. It's really funny. I never really likened it to an actual substance, but it is. It really is. And
Yeah,
and for Sammy, it totally becomes one. So I'm very happy for that one-to-one to occur, because he does get this fix out of it, and he needs it, and it's like and he ends up getting the same habits that someone hiding an addiction would get.
yeah,
But yeah, in a really funny, strange way, the book did not start off as me writing an addiction allegory. It was more like, uh, which is funny. It's really funny because it's like, wow, what would like if a guy really needs to see this, what would he do? And I was like, oh well, if a guy really needs to do anything, he's addicted.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that
Yeah,
was a soup. Yeah, that I mean, I'm really happy that it landed in the way that it did. But yeah, he's a pretty tough character.
it is. Yeah, yeah. No, but it's quite. I mean, it's curious. It really. It's like what I said before. It really does go down some really dark to some dark places. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like I'm really reading a really kind of pure, terrifying horror novel because it's kind of you explain the things that he does see these videos, but it never feels kind of. I mean, it does get quite graphic, but it never kind of feels like I'm reading something that's kind of gratuitous at the same time. And I think that's why I
Oh,
really got
good.
pulled into it and enjoyed it more so because it's like it tells you just what you need to do to read, but at the same time you can kind of imagine things in your head. But I was reading it to work on the tube, for example, and like I prefer not to read anything too graphic because I'm like, there's an old lady sat next to me or whatever, and I don't want to freak
Yeah.
out. But no, but if you know what I mean, it's kind of it tells you just what you need to read and no more. And I really
Yeah.
appreciated that, even though it does go down these really dark places.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad you say that. That's really funny. I'm glad you bring that up. The book has been getting characterized a lot as splatterpunk, which I'm by no means opposed to that category. I mean, being a horror author and a horror reader, I'm very, privy to that subgenre of like really graphic, over the top violence writing. And I was like, well, it's definitely a pretty graphic book, but it doesn't, at least in my perspective of it, it's never really indulged in it as much as it's giving you what it is. It's a
Yeah, just
very
telling you the
black and
facts.
white,
Yeah.
yeah, black and white kind of depiction of like what the video he's watching or what's going to happen. And it's funny. I think a lot of that, and this is my lived experience watching these videos, is that so much of it is just in the damn title of those videos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Watch
Like
to the
you don't
end, and then
even
you wait
need
to the end, and there's hardly anything in it either. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, dude, like you don't even need to get a description of the 5-minute clip when the
And then
clip's
you've got it all in your
called
head.
like woman murdered in bathroom, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, that's it. That's what it is.
Yeah. But so it's going back to the Genesis then. Was it more to do with this kind of finding things on the internet, or was it more that you wanted to tackle something to do with kind of grief and going through those motions, and then kind of
Yeah.
that came later, this finding grief of others to maybe help this
Well,
person go through grief?
yeah. So I think, if I think about the genesis of it, it was the grief had to become the grief came later. It started as a short story that I tried to shop around and no one was into it. And it was about AI and algorithms and how like they know everything all the time. And it's my opinion that, these algorithms, they don't want to see you succeed. They have no interest in watching you be a better person. They kind of think you suck and they want you to suck.
Yeah. Just want to
So
keep
it was
everything under
like,
control. Yeah.
yeah, like that's what they want from you. They want you to be they don't want you to be a three-dimensional character. They don't want you to be, as a cis het man myself, they don't want you to have nuance or to have insightful opinions. They want to give you whatever the fuck they think you want.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, if that's what the AI is doing already in real life, like who is the prime target for something like that? And it's young men now. It's people that don't have the right guidance. It's people that maybe don't have a proper support system or the like. And for Sammy, it's someone who has lost too much to give a shit. Like he's grieving in such a profound way, and he's turning his back on all things that could help him because he's like, what's the point? And so I was like, all right, well, here's an algorithm that's already, kicking our ass, frankly. And then let me give it a person that like is very volatile and like, powder keg. And so that was the idea for sure. And it came, it meshed together easily because like now I mean, I don't know about your relationship with content, but like the holes we fill with content, it's insurmountable sometimes. And I think that this guy needed that in a major way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I see it's quite funny because I've got two one that are a bit older now, 13 and 16, but having two kids with Instagram accounts and whatever, it's just so easy to find this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Luckily they had a dad who's been into his horror movies since he was a kid, and he's done interviews
Mhm.
with kind of filmmakers and stuff, and they've seen all props and things like that, so it's not been too bad. But yeah,
Oh
it
yeah.
must be frightening to have kids who've just they've got the window to everything on the telephone or on the iPad. It's really freaky, really scary.
Oh yeah, well I mean I'm 30, and so my generation grew up with the internet in a way that our parents didn't know what it was. They
Yeah.
didn't know like the first thing people would be uploading would be snuff films. Because why would you assume that? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it's like, oh, here's a beautiful thing that'll connect the world, and we'll
Yeah,
send
yeah,
emails to each
you can
other
study
and
some
little
extra history at home. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like surely I could just Google George Washington and some creep's not going to send me like a severed head JPEG, Like, but
Yeah.
but that's what it was for us growing up, and we were watching it, and it was like I don't know what the hell, like it's crazy. And that first page in the book of like the first time I saw someone die, that's real. Like that was a real thing. Of like you go to a sleepover, you see those videos, and if you don't have the right person to talk to about it, if you don't have the right friends or the right person to like how can you expect a little kid to like even process what he's watching, let alone have the vocabulary to like ask someone for help about it? They're cooked.
No, I mean, if they see that, they don't even want to let their parents know that they've seen something like that. They'll be like, "Ah, he's gonna kill me just for having seen it." So
Yeah, exactly. Like, it wasn't my
keep it
fault I
quiet.
saw it, but I'm in
Yeah,
trouble anyway, Yeah.
yeah. Uh-huh. That's quite right. It
All that.
reminds me. I don't know if have you seen Adolescence, this new series that everyone's talking about on
It
Netflix.
just I haven't I you know what? You're the second person that's that's
Yeah,
that's like pinged me about it. Yeah,
yeah.
it just came out though, like a little bit
It just
ago.
came out on last Friday, I think it was. Was it last Friday,
Yeah, I
something like
heard
that?
it's
Yeah.
great.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, all
Yes,
and it's all
I
done in
vaguely know what it's about. Yeah.
yeah, because there was two stabbings in the UK.
Mm. Hmm.
So Stephen Graham, the actor, he said that it really hit hard, and he wanted to know why something like that could happen, and that's how it all kind of came
Hmm.
about. And I've not seen it yet, but my son saw it the other day, and it
Oh
sounds
yeah.
pretty hard, but it sounds really really interesting. Yeah, and it's
Oh, I
it's
mean,
and
yeah, being in America, like, well, I mean, the school shootings, Columbine, like we're in the history. It's an ever-present thing of radical violence and frankly, like, it's just not. It's crazy. It's just crazy.
yeah, mhm, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was speaking. He was on. I think he was on Jimmy Fallon last night, and he was saying that he decided that he wanted to do it because he wanted to know why these people would do something like that at such a young age. And he didn't blame anyone, but he said the parents, school education, and then of course social media and all those kind of things. So it kind of brings me back to exactly what we were talking about there.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a really bad. It could be a really really bad, perfect storm of influences in a major way. Which I think, I mean, not to, that's I think what Clay really appreciated the book and wants to talk about it because I don't know if you read his most recent one, Wake
I
Up and
haven't,
Open
but I
Your
have got it. I've got
Eyes.
it. Yeah, I have got it to read, but I've not read it. Yeah, no. Yeah,
Right.
the one where people who watch television they turn into zombies or
Yeah,
something. Oh yeah, I can't remember the
exactly.
name.
It's the same. Yeah, it's like if mine's on the internet, his is on like his is about like like just the news media, the news cycle, and like
Yeah.
how alt-right news outlets can like radicalize someone, or so to speak. And so I think now I forgot who mentioned it. God, I don't remember who said it, but there is a rise of these types of stories that are about the things we consume more, it's because it's more than ever with, it's all we seem to do is watch content and then we're
Yeah.
shocked that it's killing us.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, but so but so would you say that then that kind of like, I mean, you mentioned that the genesis of kind of how you wanted it to go about, but when it came to kind of the dark side of the net,
Sure.
did you decide that you were just gonna kind of create things yourself, or did you actually deep dive into the internet and
So
suffer
yeah, well, I
suffer for the
think
sake of art?
you know what? As a matter of fact, what I think do you know that story, Ready Player One? That
Yep.
like that. Yeah, I think I pitched it to my editor a long time ago as like Ready Player One, like the worst things on the internet because about 99% of them are real thing. Like most of them are legitimate that I either witnessed, read about, watched myself, or a friend told me about it, or showed it to me, or something like to that effect. Which sucks, obviously. And so. Yeah, a lot of it is real, which is crazy. And then you know what? After you kind of you like, I don't know what the phrase is, like kind of break that seal of like what's you say enough real ones, you can slip in made up ones, and the made up ones are going to sound tame by comparison.
Yeah,
Like
I'm sure. Well, there you go.
no,
That's something that really, really. Sorry to interrupt you, but I was just going to say that that's something that really, really worries me. Is that it's AI. You can more or less tell when something's kind of recreated with AI, but in a couple of years' time, you won't be able to tell the difference, and they'll be able
oh
to put
totally,
brutal videos that we won't
yeah,
even know if it's
yeah.
real or not, and that is really frightening.
Yes, 100, totally. You don't even have to go too far. That's not even on the dark web. That stuff is just readily available. You can
Yeah,
see like deep fakes. You can see AI of speeches that nobody ever said. You can see all this stuff. And, you know, we're talking about it now, but like for the most part, it's a bunch of creeps using it to make pornography of celebrities.
exactly. Yeah,
It's which is just what they're using it for, at least what I've seen. And now it's going to be like, a video of a murder of a politician or a celebrity dying, and or even more personal, someone like your friend, your parent, your wife, your neighbor, a video of them getting chopped up, and like you won't even be able to tell the difference, and people are going to react to it because no one bothers to fact check or get a second opinion on anything, so everyone just kind of reacts and fires off more things. And
that
it's a
sounds
very
like.
pessimistic novel,
Yeah, but
and
also,
I'm a pretty
I mean,
cynical
it
guy
frightens me,
about it.
but that sounds like a really great pitch for a movie or a book. because
Yeah.
because that the people would just go wild with if they saw these kind of videos and thought it was real. I don't know if you read
Yeah,
this one. Now that I'm thinking, I don't know if you read this one. You read this one. I'm starting to worry about this black box of doom
that's
by
really funny. I
Jason
never
Martin.
heard of it.
So
Oh,
this
Jason, sure.
and it's about this girl. She goes with the box and she's asked this guy in an Uber to take her from one place to another, and then everyone on the internet starts presuming it's a bomb or something, and it just
Fun.
escalates and escalates and escalates, and it's the same kind of thing with the internet. It's just everything goes crazy. Yeah, it's a great
Oh
book.
yeah. Oh good. Yeah, I should read. You know what? I'm really I'm a very very slow reader. Funny
I'm
enough,
slow.
I'm a
I'm very
really
slow as
really
well.
slow
Yeah.
reader, but I'm a very thoughtful reader. I saw a bunch of dog ears and tabs in that book. Yeah,
Oh right.
I'm
Yeah,
very
you're right. Yeah, this one. Yeah, there are a few. Yeah.
yeah, I do
I'm slow.
similar.
Yeah.
I'm like I take a long time, but a very conscientious time.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I'm the same. I've just bought a Kobo. I don't usually read digital books. I prefer physical books, but I've just
Mhm.
bought a Kobo and I'm really impressed with it because you can outline in color and it's really good. Yeah.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Then everyone can see when you're on the tube, you're highlighting those graphic
I hate
depictions.
watching videos. Yeah. About deaths on the internet and those kind of
Yeah, yeah,
things.
and you just keep flipping back to that page.
But yeah. So you actually did conscientiously dive into the dark web to see what you could
Yeah, well, you know what's
find.
fun?
Yeah.
I definitely did. I definitely did. A lot of it is very core memories too. So like, I didn't even have to strain that hard to remember some of the things that I watched. And I remember when I was like first, like work like moving the story around and making it a book. And I talked to a lot of my friends who grew up with the same stuff. And it was just it comes pretty organically in conversation of like, oh, do you remember the XYZ video? Oh yeah, you ever seen that one a long time ago? You don't even have to pull it up on your phone as much as it's
Yeah.
such a memory. Like everyone knows, the infamous ones like, two girls, one cup, and one man, one jar, and one man, one horse, and whatever the hell. They always have those punchy titles. But there are ones that you could say that like, don't you remember that video of like, I think, gosh, depending on my age, I guess ISIS was probably big at the moment. Was it the Taliban before ISIS? Whatever the hell. A lot of those like beheading videos were going around early, and you could just like say a couple key factors, and you're like, it comes flooding back like a memory. You're like, oh my God, I forgot about that. Um, but then I had, as funny as fucked up as it is, I had to get with the times, and so I had to watch a few ones now that were like, oh my God. And again, pretty readily accessible, which is awful. I mean, I'm pretty squeamish too. That's the thing about me. Like, I don't like watching these videos. I even get really wigged out when I see like knockout compilations. Like those scare the hell out of me. But you can go to worldstar.com and like watch some dude like knock the lights out of a guy in a parking lot, and then like you're like, that guy's dead. You're like, oh my God, what the fuck? Um, so yeah, it was pretty. It was a really dark time of research, but what was fun that you could do. I mean, I'm not suggesting you should do it, but you can just go on like Reddit or something, or just Google like disturbing Reddit threads or disturbing whatever the hell, and someone else has already done all the homework. Like they'll give you like a big sheet of hyperlinks, and yeah, if you really want to ruin your weekend, you could do that too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not well, if it's like horror movies or things like that, I'm fine. But when it's real, or if it's kind of like even if it's a drama, like a medical drama, I can't watch that either because if it's got an inkling of reality, I just
No, yeah,
can't do it.
exactly. It's and
Yeah,
and you know what? This is really, really dark, but when you watch a lot of these videos, it makes you, as a writer, I was like, wow, like I don't, this is really, really morbid, but it's like I would never have known how to most accurately describe someone shooting themselves had I not seen a video of someone shooting himself. You know what I
that's
mean?
right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because you only see it in like movies or like a Tarantino movie or something that's really hyper and
Yeah,
exaggerated.
yeah,
But then you watch like a webcam footage of a guy shooting himself, and you're like,
yeah. And it's just
I would have never described it that way. And I know that's probably the bleakest thing you'll hear in an interview,
no,
but
no,
that's,
but I can
it's
imagine it's
true.
nothing compared to the movies whatsoever. Yeah,
Right, exactly. It's so much more abrupt and horrifying. It's so
yeah,
much more weirdly anticlimactic. It's really nasty, nasty, nasty stuff. And yeah.
yeah. Abrupt is
So
I think abrupt is the word I was looking for exactly. Yeah.
yeah, it's not, there's no cool monologue or actor zoom in. It's just yeah, it's awful. It's awful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I want to change the subject a little bit lighter. There was something that I felt it was comical. I don't know if you did it on purpose, but I think we're okay. It's not a spoiler. I think it's more of a teaser that the main character also has a side job pretending that he's
Yeah.
ill to
Yes.
help for like medical students to do their exams. That was,
Yes, correct.
I imagine that was kind of supposed to be kind of like the levity in some of this book, I think,
Yeah.
because of this other guy that works with him who this kind of like this riffy raffy guy.
Yeah, the
And
Ryan Vasquez guy
I'm
who's like
curious,
a
where
jerk.
did that
Yeah.
come into the story? Was that something that came in later after you'd already decided about all the dark net and seeing all these things? Because it really melded in really well, but it was kind of
Yeah.
came by surprise all of a sudden, yeah. But it's a
Yeah,
shame. I
well,
liked it, yeah.
I think it's a matter of again, it's because what the book does, at least, it's like a lot of like cyclical structure and loops, right? Like not to spoil it, but there's like many monikers and nicknames and different identities being taken, and all these different people have different names and yada yada. And for his job as a standardized patient, what is it more than just like another simulation? It's lines, it's being watched, it's doing a role, it's being a performance, and it's also simulating empathy. It's trying to like gain an emotion. It's trying to do all these stuff, and that was I think a funny uh it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun job in general. I used to do it back in college,
Yeah, but it's good. You
and
could really
it's
mess with the students if you wanted to.
yeah, yeah. They were really fun. Like some of the ones you would get. One of my good friends did it with me, and like he was like a stab patient. He had to be. So they gave him a big blood bag with like clay and all of the stuff that he had to wear on his chest, and he had to like be heaving and pumping blood out. It was
Oh,
really fun. But that was like okay, like this is really on brand for this guy, right? This guy that does not know how to navigate, cannot tell the difference between real emotions, fake emotions,
yeah,
emulated, simulated, synthetic, or otherwise. Like this guy doesn't know what's real, who he is, what matters, what has consequences. A big thing in the end, towards the end of the book, is like the question of like, is IRL worth it anymore? Like, do you have to be a good person IRL? You have to like, does it matter? Like, we're so zooming towards the future at like a very fast pace, and everything is online, and that seems to be the only thing that matters. It's the only thing people
yeah,
care about, frankly. So you don't need
yeah.
to
It's like kind
worry
of the
about
social
being
norm is to be the same as everybody that you see online instead of just being this tightly knit group of people that we used to be when we were kids when the internet didn't really
yeah,
exist, you
like you
know?
could be awful IRL. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like there are no consequences in IRL if you so long as you're kicking ass online. It's
yeah,
um I've always maintained that the book is like a very cyberpunk novel, at least from my perspective of it, right? I like William Gibson and Snow Crash and was Neil Stephenson as the such Neuromancer. Um, well, William Gibson for Neuromancer, Neil Stephenson for Snow Crash. However, I maintain that cyberpunk, like we're in it now, it's happening. Like we're living in a gig economy. The world is being polluted. We're being run by like tech oligarch millionaires and like billionaires. Like I don't know what more cyber. We're living literally. We have a thing called the metaverse, and it sucks. I don't know how much more people want out of it. We just don't have cool jackets and sunglasses. It's just
yeah.
the really really boring cyberpunk reality.
It's crazy times. I mean, this book couldn't have come out at a better time either, really. Now that you say that.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I got really lucky. I mean, lucky that AI became such a horrible thing. Like it's yeah, the timing is good. It sucks that it's happening real life. It sucks that I ended up predicting what's going to happen tomorrow. But it's nice.
Yeah, but now at the same time, I mean, there are some AI is useful in certain ways. Um, do you use it as an author? Do you use it in any specific way, or do you kind of steer
No,
clear
I
as much
don't
as
really
possible?
have I never really need it. I don't really have a
Oh,
purpose
yeah,
for it. I know that it's around, obviously. I just don't know. Well, that was something that the book had to like be really honest about. Like the people for any like brand new territory in like the tech sphere, whatever the hell, not necessarily like the Silicon Valley tech bro sphere, but like technology in general, like any like untouched land is gonna like be grabbed by people that are like really skilled at it. and
yeah,
and whether those people are good people or not is like kind of a crapshoot.
yeah.
And so this book suggests that like the tech accelerationists and the people that are really good at it and really skilled at it and are calling the shots for it are like not necessarily going to have our best interest in mind, because why would they have our best
Of
interest
course
in
not.
mind?
Yeah.
They don't really benefit from that. I think we've learned that over and over again. Like we're cooked.
Oh, look at, oh, you just need to see Elon Musk with his chainsaw, and you know that we are cooked.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah,
yeah, cooked.
that's the good word. Yeah. So yeah, also yeah, I mean, the book talks a lot about grief as well, how people deal with grief. Again,
Hmm. Hmm.
when the protagonist comes in contact with his family again, when they all
Hmm.
get together, he starts talking about the photos that you can see of people how that have died, that have passed away, and he talks about how
Sure.
certain members of his family see death as being something that's very clinical, and at the same
Yes.
time, he sees that others see death as kind of something that you have to respect and not talk about it, and those kind of things.
Right.
Where did all of that come from? Because there's a lot of that in the book. It's kind of a lot to unpack. That there's kind of these different ways of looking at death. And I
Yeah,
imagine that was
totally.
something that really kind of worked its way in from the very beginning as well. That you were like, how was the protagonist gonna kind of look at death because this is something that you don't expect to happen at such a young age for someone so
Right.
close to you to. I mean, we can say that, no, that he loses someone at such a young age.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that, I mean, that, yeah, totally. That had to be built in from the beginning, right? Because for a character to feel that grief, you have to ask yourself, like, how does he grieve? And then the question is like, well, how do other people grieve? And what are the various reactions to death, you know? Is it like a very kumbaya, let's dance and enjoy he's one with the earth? And it's like, no, that's not that wouldn't be a very compelling base for this guy to lose his marbles. Like it needs to be something. The clinical aspect is very honestly, it's kind of akin to when we talked about like the abrupt shooting yourself. Like it's done. Like there's no soul going on. There's no heaven. There's no whatever. They're just dead. His heart, almost like a pathophysiological like. Oh, his heart stopped pumping blood, and because of that, his brain fell apart. Because of that, da 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 da. Now he's dead. And
Yeah.
so, when you have such a sterile clinical thing, it's almost like trying to wring emotion out of like, or trying to get water out of a rock. Like, how can this guy have any solace when that's what death is explained to him? There could have been a beautiful world where, and it's no spoiler because Ellery dies like in the jacket of the book.
Yeah.
But had he been told that, she's in a better place or that yada yada yada, there could have been a world where he doesn't spiral. But so far as he knows, like, oh yeah, a car swiped her and the impact exploded her skull and vertebra in such a way that her brain blew out of her ears and now she's roadkill. And like that's like how can someone when it's so sterile and just like all the videos, black and white and just like abrupt, so to speak. Um, I think we as people, we want it's really hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. It just is.
Yeah.
It simply is.
That was what I
Right.
really appreciate about the book as well, because it's like you said, it's very clinical. He sees she gets killed like in an instant, but at the same time,
Right.
he obviously he sees that and he accepts that, but at the same time, he can't get her out of her head, and like he meets this new girl, but he's always thinking about Ellery all the time, and he can't help it. And then these videos
Right.
are like a catalyst for that, just to
Don't
keep
help at
going
all.
and keep
Yeah.
going and keep going. So that must have been quite a difficult kind of balance to kind of to have this guy seeing these videos, and it's like 1 second she's here, 1 second she's gone, but then at the same time to have her play this constant role throughout the book as well at the same time, no?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? That was actually a really fun part of the book surprisingly, it came pretty easily because if you think, and this is gonna, I don't want this to be so, it's more craft, I guess, but when you think of something like the internet or like the dark web in particular, it's kind of like that Harry Potter thing is like a bag and you put your hand and you can pull out anything you really need,
Right. Yeah.
right? It's kind of like that. And so when you have that structure in a story of like this is essentially for all intents and purposes, it's a magical black box that will show you the worst thing you want at all times. And so if you pace it along through this character's journey, he's always going to have something gnarly to come back to that will drive him deeper, deeper down the rabbit hole. Which was really fun to have, right? Like this guy cannot cope with his new relationship. He cannot cope with, his friends that are moving on to Atlanta and all of these things. He can't cope for any of these things, and so he could always go back to that black box and like find something that will like take the edge off.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. And at the same time, especially this girlfriend that he has, she prompts him, she urges him to seek therapy. And he
Yes.
refuses and refuses and refuses, and he keeps going back to these videos, these videos, these videos.
Yeah. Well, again, I wanted to be really honest of like for Sammy in particular, what would his relationship with therapy be like, if at all, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't, I have, it's like with mental health in general, and with again, it always goes back to like what the algorithm thinks of you. Like
Yeah.
this guy probably never thought that therapy was for, that was not for me, quote
Yeah, I
unquote,
think in the book he said I don't know, I don't like crying in front of people or something like that. I think it was his response to
Yeah,
that.
exactly, right? Like that's not for him. It's for somebody else maybe, but it's not for him who this identity he thinks he is, the identity the internet thinks he is, right? And so yeah, so it's like I don't want to go to that. And he's a very cynical, misled kid. And so like I don't want, there's a part where he's like, I don't want to see and I think I hope that this part resonated, but there's a part where he remarks that like he doesn't want to see a therapist Twitter thread. He wants to watch the cartel videos instead. And he has this warped view that like even that therapist Twitter is making content. It is not authentic. It is not real. It is content. It is therapy content. And thus it's not part of his algorithm. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I guess I got what you mean. Yeah.
It's Yeah, it's no, I'm really really happy with how it's being received, but it's flatly a downer, which
No,
is
but
fun.
no, but yeah, I kind of what really attracted to me was when I saw it wanted to deep dive into the kind of the dark web. So I was kind of
Hmm.
expecting kind of this mysterious, maybe there's some kind of I don't know, mafia or some group they're working behind, and it's very, very different to what I expected, which was what I really appreciate about it because it was kind of like really poignant in places and very it kind of talks about grief. So it was something I wasn't expecting, and it works
Oh, I'm
really well.
glad.
Yeah, the
I'm
kind of
really
the
glad.
addiction and the grief is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm really really glad you feel that way. Yeah, I couldn't say. I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna echo what you said back, like addiction, grief, and how that content is like it's just it's that's it. It's design. It's no better than like beer or fucking or drugs. It's just right there for us, ready to help us out.
Yeah. And then I mean, also, I think are we okay to talk a little bit about the Waxman a little bit, the creepy pastas?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to give away too much of the story, but I was quite what interested me the most about that was the fact that there's a line which I've written down somewhere here. It said that you were very specific about he was very specific about Waxman and he hated anyone that would kind of piggyback off of his ideas and try and write it because not because they copied it, but because they didn't copy it in the way that it was supposed to be told. So I'm quite
You're
curious
right.
if that's how you feel about kind of your stories because this doesn't fit. I don't think this book really. I mean, you said it's kind of like a punk horror
Hmm.
story in a way here, but I don't. I really couldn't think of another book that was the same as this. So I was quite curious if you had the same
Oh,
kind of mindset about when it comes to writing books that you don't
oh,
like to
that's really
piggyback
interesting.
off other genres, or is that? I mean, do you try not to read specific
You
horror
know,
genres before you write a book specifically so that you don't piggyback on those?
that's a really, really good question. Wow, I actually never really looked inward about
No,
that.
no,
That's a really good question.
it's just it
But,
really
but
didn't fit into any genre for me that I've read before. I'm not a huge reader, but I really haven't read anything like this before.
I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it. I think that's probably accurate. I think that's very accurate. For me personally, right, I try not to read other things before I write something,
Yeah,
but it's really hard balance, right? Because I know that there are fans that want you to be at least, have the jargon and the language of these types of things. Like they want you to know you got to be respectful because people are very precious about their genres, which they should be. I
yeah,
think I love genre. I'm a big fan of genre.
yeah,
People are very precious about their vampire books, their werewolves, their rules,
sure.
their cyberpunk, whatever the hell it is. Um, but it's hard because you don't want to. If you read everything in it, then you're going to end up making something that's just you're going to be too in your head. You're going to
It's
go, oh
just
well,
yeah,
no.
it's gonna be a melting pot of
You're going
everything.
to make a crappy like synthesis like a whatever. Uh, but like an average of all, which you don't want.
Yeah,
I try to read like the big seminal pieces,
right,
maybe, but I probably won't even do that. I'll like
right.
try to go in brand new and I'll try to make it something. And I am a strong believer of like I, I am a really strong believer that like, you know, what am I trying to say? I definitely think that the Waxman is unique. And I think I'm very flattered that you think REKT doesn't fit anywhere because that was a goal of all of my writing in general. I want all of my writing to be super duper niche,
Yeah.
super duper
Yeah.
specific. I I think I knew in the beginning writing this thing that like this book will not be for everybody, but for the people it is for, will be powerful for them. And I think that was the goal with all everything I write. And I think that's kind of nice to hear you say that. Because yeah, like I'm, for example, like I'm working on this next project, and I'm like, I don't want it to be. It's like loosely about witches and paganism, and I'm like, I don't want it to. I could easily read and watch all of the witchy pagan things, but that's not me.
Yeah.
Like that's I want it to feel. I want it to feel like when someone picks up the book, similar to when when Sammy watches the video of Ellery, like it's like, wow, this was for me. This was meant for
Yeah.
me. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think as a writer or an artist in general, like that is something to strive for. That's what I teach my students a lot. I do some teaching on the side, and
Right.
like, yeah, you could try to write the thing that hits the four quadrants, but like, who cares?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
No,
like,
it was your book did exactly that because it was like like I said, the first page was like, I don't think this is gonna be for me because wow. And then page two,
yeah,
three, four is like, wow, this book is for me. So
yeah,
it was completely converted my opinion of the book pretty much straight away, which is
yeah.
really,
Good.
really clever. Really well
No,
done.
I'm really glad. I'm glad. I'm glad. As for the Waxman, for his part, that was a character I had been like. I had that character in like 100 different stories that I couldn't move to save my life. I
Right.
was like, this guy's a freaky character, right? And I wrote a bunch of short stories about him. No one gave a shit. And I was like, well, I guess he is pretty much like a creepy pasta. I wasn't
Yeah.
giving him, I wasn't delivering him in a creepy pasta medium. I was delivering
Yeah.
him
In another
in like a
story,
proper
though.
short story.
Yeah.
And it was not landing. And I was like, all right, let me just side pocket him, and I'll find a place to put him some eventually. And I did. Now he lives
Yeah.
with Sammy.
Yeah, because it's the story itself, the Waxman, well, I'm not sure, but it's kind of, it just feels like it's there as a creepypasta, but to serve another purpose, kind of to serve the protagonist's
Hmm.
purpose of what he wants, why he's doing, why he's going to these Reddit
Right.
forums, whatever, to create these stories.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. It's
is that
like
something
it's
that you've tried to
again
do as well, but before writing the book, or just to kind of see the reactions of people? Did you try that
of
out as
like
well?
trial out the Waxman to see if anybody likes
Yeah.
him. Uh, you know what? I definitely never put him onto the creepypasta forums or anything like that. But you know why? It's because I actually have a lot of respect for the creepypasta community, which is a
Right.
really silly phrase to say, but they do a lot of like world building and a lot of lore building for their
Yep.
pastas. And that's like frankly, that's like more work than I can do. Like I don't even know like if you go back to if you even like dive deep, and I'm not a Slender Man guy by any means. Like I
Yeah.
think he's fun and cool, but like I don't really like gun to my
Yeah.
head, I whatever. Um but you like just a cursory wiki search. I'm like, there's lore to this guy. He's in YouTube, and he has doctored photos of his trajectory and like his timeline, black and white. But I'm like, okay, then I'll never do that for Waxman. So just fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Let's get curious though, but some books, some novels have actually started life on Reddit forums and then turning. I can't remember
Yes,
names now, but there are a few that I've read
that's
about
right.
that started life over there, and they're
Yeah,
in
and like I
paperback now.
don't
Yeah.
know, and I think yeah. I haven't read any of them, but I know them I know which ones you're referring to, and I think it's really interesting, and I'm not certain how I feel about it. I don't. I think it's really strange. I think it's good. I think it's cool, and I think that's I'm proud and happy for that author and creator. But I do believe that like in a lot of ways the medium's the message. Like reading it on a blog is your brain is different than reading it in a hardcover novel, right?
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
that's why it's almost so jarring at the end of REKT when you have that like mixed media. It's like, oh wow, like I'm seeing a Reddit forum, but I'm seeing it on a paperback book.
Yeah.
Like this is strange. It's kind of a weird sense of like it morphs and blurs into each other. That said, there are some really great horror things online that are explicitly for online, and when you encounter them, and they're fiction, but when you encounter them, you're like, whoa, like this hits harder because it has the trappings of like an
So yeah,
online
just
blog or the
it's like just
trappings of like
like a Blair Witch Project type movie or something like that. It's actually there physical. It's
exactly,
like a found footage on the computer.
exactly, and right. which is great. So like that's exactly right. Like you see the Blair Witch Project on an unmarked VHS tape, it's going to be a lot different than you seeing the Blair Witch Project like streaming on Prime. You know what I mean? It's different, a different quality. But that's I'm not knocking it at all. I'm really glad that
Oh, sure,
creators
yeah.
online are like getting their stuff. But I could imagine even for them writing it the book or like changing it, just the structure format of changing it from a thing to a no sleep to book would be pretty daunting task.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are some creators. There's gosh, I'm gonna name. There's a guy named shit. I should bother looking up his name, but his name is Eric Heiser, I think is his name, and he was an Oscar. He got nominated for the Academy Award for screenwriting Arrival, right, based off that short story. Uh, but before he was the screenwriter, he was back in 2007. He made this scary website called gosh, I think it's called the Diania House. And it's exactly that. It's like mixed media. It's a bunch of emails and blog posts and IM message threads about a house that eats people. And it's obviously it's ridiculous, but when you see it, the way it's delivered to you as a series of like email threads you're pouring over, it's so real and it's so haunting and freaky. And I'm like, this like you can't make that a book. It needs to be that experience of like clicking through emails and like uncovering
Totally.
this brutal mystery. So I'm all for it. I'm all for that stuff. I love that
Yeah.
stuff.
And then one thing that I don't want to keep you too long because we've been on for quite a while already, but something that it's just a pet peeve. I love it, but I hate it at the same time. When there's a name or something in a book that I don't know how to pronounce.
Uh-huh.
It,
Yeah.
it just really gets to me because I got to pronounce it so many times in my head, and I'm just like, is it this? Is it this? And you've
Oh,
got
is
a
it
name in here,
horospex?
Harris, and I was like, I didn't.
Is it horospex? Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
no, I
horospex.
love
Yeah.
it, but it's like, oh God, how do you pronounce this?
Yeah. Horospex. Yeah, yeah, horospex. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, again, that's I think that's a mimicked like you see so many usernames that I'm like, I don't know how to say this guy's
Yeah.
username. I don't know
No,
what
no,
this
but
is.
I'm standing like going to work on the tube, and I'm like, Harris, the SPX.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Horospex. That's right.
So will there be an audiobook? Talking of the name, will there be an audiobook of
Oh
it?
yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is an audiobook and
Oh, there
it's
is an audiobook.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, we got a good guy. That's a good cool point. I was never asked how to say those words, so I'm
Yeah.
curious how he's gonna do it. No one even contacted me about those pronunciations, so here's hoping they sound good. I don't know.
I was going to say that you've got this book coming out now, but you mentioned there that you are working on something else. Is that something you can tell us a little bit about, or hush hush
Yeah,
at the moment?
yeah, probably. Right. So I'm working with Erewhon Press is the publishing company that took care of REKT, and they've been amazing. And Diana is the editor of that, and she is fantastic. And
The cover is fantastic,
basically,
by the way. I love the cover of the book. Well, it's really cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, you know what? That I'm glad that I love the cover too. It's so like in your face and crazy. Um, but yeah, it was a two-book deal. So there's another. It's not a sequel or anything. It's not even going to be a sci-fi novel. I don't think it's going to be a much more yeah, it's gonna be Wiccan, it's gonna be pagan, it's gonna be really nasty witch stuff, and I've always liked witches. But again, like loop back to the earlier conversation, like I'm still figuring out my role in this. I don't know who I am or what I have to say about. I don't think I have anything
Right.
to say about witches. I think I just like them, and I like to make characters that frankly get put through the ringer. So I'm excited to just have characters explore witches and I don't know, be brutalized, I suppose.
Uh-huh. But that's a subject that a genre that I've not really read much about, to be honest. But there are quite a few books out there that I really want to look. I mean, there's one called Hex. I think it's called Hex, which has also got a
Yeah,
sequel.
yeah,
I
that's
haven't
right.
read that, but
Mhm.
that's one that really sounds intriguing to me. Kind of like some young
Yes.
kids that kind of pick on a witch that's in the village or something like that. It sounds really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I have not. That's one on my list as well. I have not read that one either. Well, it's funny because I feel like, and this is, maybe I'm totally generalizing, but in the witch content I've seen, it's either been like very cozy witch stuff, which is definitely a way to take witches, or it could be really
Really
like
dark.
frankly, like ritual abuse, awful, awful stuff. And I definitely go more this way, right? Like that's what I'm into. So I'm excited to and also witches are fascinating and they have so many different. subsects and belief systems, and
Yeah.
you can even go a little further and start like looking at like actual grimoires that have been published by like scholars, and you start seeing imagery and reading things that you're like, this is not even, you kind of lose your footing entirely. You're like, this is, it doesn't even connote like, doesn't even connote Lucifer or hell or any of those things. It connotes like a third reality that you're like, what on earth is this person talking about? And that's very cool. I really like that deep, deep, deep dive into
Yeah.
like
So
specific.
maybe,
I
so
want,
maybe,
yeah, in a lot of ways, I like my books to be. I kind of strive for my writing to be really inaccessible. Like I kind of enjoy that aspect. I want a reader to be like, I don't know what this guy's talking about, and I hate
yeah.
it.
No, that this you can tell it. I mean, this book that I've just read now, REKT. It's like I said, it starts off like that, then I get into it, then it goes down a really dark hole, then it comes
Hmm.
back up again. And it's kind of you never know where it's going to go, but because that kind of the pace of these ups and downs is really
Yeah.
well done. It's kind of yeah, I love it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I really
yeah,
appreciate you saying that. This has been, no, thank you. I think I feel very chuffed.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So you should be excited to get the book out because I can't wait to share the interview and get as many people to read it as possible because I can already think of two or three people that I know would love love to read this that I know they really like this kind of stuff. Yeah,
Good. Yeah. Give it to your horror friend. Give it to your sci-fi friend. There you go.
yeah, yeah,
Then you get two birds. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And it's timely, so it's happening.
yeah, yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time, Alex. I really appreciate it. It's been really great to speak to you. I had a good chat, and
Yeah, this was great. No,
yeah,
this was really, really good. I really appreciated it. I'm excited to see it's come up. I had a great time.